Doctor Who is back. And this time, not with some space babies, but with a robot revolution. And honestly, I think this is a much better season premiere than the aforementioned Space Babies. And I do think this is actually also just a strong episode of Doctor Who in general. And this does actually fix some of the problems that people have had with the first season of RTD2. So let's get into it. First, we start off with Belinda Chandra, our prospective companion, and her boyfriend being, well, her boyfriend being a bit weird. I immediately didn't like him when he was like, oh, I know girls can't do math. I was like, okay, slow down. So yes, he is giving her a certificate that makes her the owner of a star. I mean, those were all the rage back in the day. Like, people were actually buying those, so sure, whatever. But yeah, he's being a bit weird the whole time, and he kind of bounces between, like, understandable and just, again, a bit weird and creepy. I can see why that relationship didn't work out. Then we cut forward to Belinda working in a hospital. She's a nurse. We see how that works out. And we see the doctor popping in and seemingly trying to find her. And then he shows up at her house, where she gets kidnapped by, well, robots. That's what the story's about. And I don't know if it was necessary to show her at work, but I do think it actually helps establish her background, right? In a more visual way, right? Her later saying that, oh, I'm a nurse, wouldn't play as well if you didn't see her first. And immediately, as soon as I saw that spaceship that the robots are kidnapping her with, I thought it looks very sort of 60s pulp sci-fi, doesn't it? I mean, they show just the fins at the bottom first, and come on, don't they look exactly like this? I mean, right? 60s pulp sci-fi. That's what they're doing. Okay, cool. I'm on board. When they go to the planet later, the city also very reminiscent of that. I think the robots are a bit more modern in their design. They feel a bit more sort of 80s, 90s sort of thing. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a bit of a throwback, and I think that's fine, right? Like, why should everything look like the very current present day as of the episode coming out conception of the future, right? Why shouldn't there be things that look like we used to think the future would look like? So I think that's actually a very neat thing to also diversify the designs a bit. And yeah, so Belinda gets kidnapped, and the Doctor follows with the TARDIS. As they reach the planet, there's some time weirdness, and we find out later that the Doctor has been on the planet for 6 months, because when they enter the atmosphere effectively, the time tracks sort of disentangle themselves, and despite the fact that they arrived at the same time, as in, well, they came in at the same time, they ended up actually arriving at different times. And so the Doctor's already embedded himself in the local culture, and as Belinda is taken in and they want to crown her their queen, because, of course, the planet is orbiting her star, Miss Belinda Chandra. And so I kind of like that idea, right? Where something that seems quite innocuous on Earth, something that arguably is a bit of a scam, right? Like the selling of stars thing. Like, no one actually, like, you can say you own the star, but you legally can't own the star. And the companies that sell the certificates also don't have any ownership over those stars to give you a title to them in the first place. And then becoming such a, like, planet-defining thing. I find that a very interesting idea. And so, she's supposed to become the queen. She's supposed to merge with this AI generator entity. It's an interesting idea, I suppose. And obviously, she doesn't want that. And the Doctor and some rebels try to save her. A lot of those rebels die in the process, which creates some friction between Belinda and, I mean, basically the only rebel character that gets a reasonable amount of lines after that. So they're basically representative of the rebels, in as far as the story is concerned. And they end up at the rebel hideout, and we immediately see her spring into action as a nurse. There are injured people there, and she wants to help. And I think that's a really good characterization for a companion. I mean, people were asking to get Martha back, and while that hasn't happened in a literal sense, I do think, in a lot of ways, Belinda is sort of the spiritual successor to Martha. Martha was a doctor, Belinda is a nurse. And I think they are both a bit more proactive as companions, and they're also more capable than some other companions. And I think that is actually like a very good dynamic. And at first, the story was, of course, just about saving her and about the robot revolution itself. Obviously, like trying to, I guess, undo the robot revolution, if you will. Trying to get away from the robots controlling people again. And there's some back and forth. I feel like there's no sense really recapping the actual, like, a lot of those detailed events. Oh, I should have mentioned earlier that this is gonna get rambly. The robots or the AI overlord can't hear every ninth word. That's like a very important story point. It's an odd choice, and I'm not sure if it actually makes sense, but at the same time, they do try to justify it in the story, and, I'll allow it. I think this is, it's fine. You can do that. Yeah, and so, long story short, there's some rattle back and forth. Belinda decides to reactivate a robot so that the other robots can detect where they are, because she wants to give herself up to save the other people, which is understandable as like a sort of a heroic motivation. At the same time, it seemed quite stupid, because there's no guarantee that just because she gives herself up, the robots will spare the rebels. As a matter of fact, it kind of seemed unlikely that they would. Now, they did, but given that they were fairly indiscriminately killing rebels before, I think it was a bit of a bad move. Anyway, so, that happens, and then he's about to be sacrificed, if you will, to the AI generator, which turns out is not actually AI at all. It's the Al generator, which is Alan, her boyfriend. Well, her ex-boyfriend from, like, 17 years ago. Yeah, he's even more of a weird incel than we thought, and her mentioning him as the guy who got the certificate when they were going to get to the planet, inadvertently with the timey-wimey shenanigans, ended up causing him to end up on the planet before her, and to be sort of assimilated, I suppose, by the technology, and to become the ruler of the planet. And as soon as he's given just a smidgen of power, he's like, execute that guy. Like, who just talked back to him. And it's like, yeah, he's really not a good guy, huh? I mean, not that I thought he was, but like, I feel like there's a bit of a difference between being a bit misogynistic and, just indiscriminately killing people. But yeah, he did that. And so it turns out that he is actually sort of the power behind this whole thing, and then they then it's revealed that the whole ninth word thing is because of the way the processor works, and actually Alan is not entirely the person who's in charge there. I don't know what is supposed to be, frankly, because there was no implication that it was an AI entity before. And he's like, oh, hurt, kill me, or something. Well, I don't think he said kill me, but he said it was hurt, and that to free him, and that's weird, because before he was assimilated, he was already being an asshole. So I didn't like that aspect very much. I guess they were trying to redeem it, but then also something that was set up earlier, if two objects from different points in time touch, they cause an explosion, which I don't think that has been the case before in Doctor Who, but then again, time travel was always inconsistent, so I'll allow it. It's very 12 Monkeys of them. And so they use that to explode Alan, and he gets de-aged back to a sperm and an egg, and then he gets cleaned up by the cleaning robot. And the Doctor finds it very funny, which is a bit inconsistent with the characterization in the aforementioned episode Space Babies, where he actually thought that all life was valuable, and saying that, oh yeah, it's basically good that this guy died is a bit weird, because he did essentially get killed by this. So the celebration feels a little off, but otherwise, I do think this was a very strong episode overall. The Doctor building a relationship with Starship 55 that we don't get to see, but it really gets played off in how he reacts to when she dies, and it comes up later again. I mean, obviously, there's the obligatory Doctor Square once an episode, which, again, like a lot of those instances, is very much justified here, it just feels like it's a bit too much of a pattern. But, oh, and the other thing I should have probably talked about, Mrs. Flood is Belinda's neighbor. Which I guess is just who she is, the companion's neighbor. Whomever that might be at that point in time. But overall I thought this was a pretty strong start to the season, and with the ending being that the Earth is seemingly destroyed, which is why the Doctor and Belinda can't go back there, is both a strong premise to the episode, and also we got a very reluctant companion in her, because from the get-go, she and the Doctor don't align very well, and when the Doctor starts going to, in the whole, oh, you look like Mundy Flynn, it's destiny that we came together, and she, just had a confrontation with her incel ex-boyfriend. So naturally, she doesn't react very kindly to that. She's like, no, take me home. Understandable, but again, he can't, so they travel together after all. So this gives us the companion conflict that people have been asking for. Hey, personally didn't mind that, the Doctor and Ruby got along well. Would have probably, if they had always just gotten along well, and she was the companion for 3 seasons, that probably would be bad. But I think for a single 8-episode season, that's fine. Well, 9, I suppose, if we count the Christmas special. But we get a different character dynamic between Belinda and the Doctor than between Ruby and the Doctor, so I think that is quite good. Both because this dynamic probably does have more potential, and also because it is just different, right? You want some variety in your companion dynamics. You don't want to have that thing where in classical sometimes they would have a story that was written with a different companion in mind, but because the companions have changed, they just slot in a different person, and it's barely noticeable because the companions are very interchangeable. So I think the idea that the companions are actually full-fledged characters now is quite good. And so, yeah, I guess rambly first impressions. Should probably put a rating on there, right? Let's give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a strong Doctor Who episode, but not an outstanding one. So I'm gonna give this episode a 7 out of 10. I think that's probably it for the review. I probably forgot something I want to mention. But do let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. And I'm planning to do these videos every week. I can't guarantee they're going to be quite as fast this every week, but if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a like if you enjoyed this one, hopefully. And if you have any suggestions on how I can streamline this format a bit, I'm open to that as well. Until next time, that's it.